Good evening, everyone. Wow, new mics, I like it. Welcome to the City of Grand Haven regular City Council meeting of July 17th, 2023, which is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Cummins,
Here?
McNally.
Here. Our invocation this evening will be delivered by Derek Norman of the Second Reformed Church. Would everyone please rise for the invocation and remain standing while we say the Pledge of Allegiance together? Is he here? Looks like,
We got another rev here, maybe.
what do we got? You know what? I'm going to go straight to the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask council's indulgence here, and I know that we've got a reappointment, or a new appointment to a board and commission, and I know that there are some people here who would like to speak about it, and I wonder whether council would support a motion to take the first call to the audience before we address the appointment.
I don't care.
No concerns.
No concerns? Okay, Maria says the safest way to do it is with a motion. Is there someone who would move to reverse the order of the first call to the audience and the new appointment?
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Any discussion? Maria, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to actually go through the approval of regular and consent agendas first, then first call to the audience, and then we'll switch back to the appointment. Is there a motion to approve consent and regular agendas?
So moved.
In support.
Any discussion? Okay. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right, first call to the audience, one of two opportunities. At this time, members of the audience may address the council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We will take all callers. Richard?
Hello, how are you? 217 Grand Ave, Rich Clapp. And not that this is something to be celebrated, but it is coming up soon, the 80th anniversary of the robbery at People's Bank here in Grand Haven by Babyface Nelson, who also known as Lester Gillis, that was his real name, Eddie Bentz, and Homer Van Meter. And there was also a getaway driver. And it all occurred next to McClellan's Drug Store, which I don't believe it was called that at the time, but it was at the southwest corner, 3rd and Washington. Very interesting story. Since we're a tourist town, it's something that I wanted to bring to your attention in case you wanted to do something with it. It is the 80th anniversary. And so there are still folks here in town who remember the Art Welling, who was the bank teller, and Ted Bolt, who was the bank president, and Ed Kinkema, who was the manager of the store at the time. All familiar names to most of us here. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. That's a good history recap. And I think it was his first, Babyface Nelson's first robbery, and it was foiled right here in Grand Haven. Is that right?
It was the very first robbery.
Yeah, it's a great story. Thank you.
Mike Welling.
Hey, Mike.
1226 Fulton Street. And I'm also a candidate for the Board of Light and Power. I've just got one question, maybe one statement. is what I read in the paper true? And I oppose the CCC amendment. I'm running for the Board of Light and Power, not against the Board of Light and Power. And if you want to know anything more about me, I have a website, MikeWelling4BLP.com. Also, that was my Uncle Art. And what he was doing was he was on his way to work. He was working there in the summertime for college. And the bank was getting robbed. And as he was coming to work, they were exiting the bank. And what he did was he grabbed, he said the last guy that was walking out of the bank was a little guy. And he played football for University of Michigan. So he grabbed the smallest guy coming out of the bank, beat him up and rolled underneath the car with him, while the other guys stood outside with their Tommy guns and blazed the street. And some of the medallions, I think, that were in the bank are in the community center with bullet holes in them. And he held the guy underneath the car. The cars were high off the ground back then. And they looked around for this guy, and they couldn't find him, so they left without him. So he still had him underneath the car when the police arrived. He
Okay,
captured
that's much of the rest of the story. Good job.
captured one of the guys. And also, he became vice president of People's Bank,
Yeah.
the bank that was robbed.
I remember my sister telling me that, I thought it was Clyde Kinkema, but it might have been, was it Ed? Okay, came out shooting. Apparently there was some kind of silent alarm, or else they heard something going on. They all had guns at their businesses and came out shooting, and off went Babyface Nelson as well.
Yeah, my Uncle Art used to tell that story once in a while. We had to get it out of him. He was kind of shy about it, but my dad would always make him tell the story.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I'm running for the Board of Light and Power. And if you like the Board of Light and Power, vote for me. I'm your guy. All right? Thank
All right, good to know.
Andrea Hendrick, 1514 Penoyer, Board of Light and Power trustee. I'd like to implore, Madam Mayor, that you and the chairman of the BLP, Mike Westbrook, make sure that our joint session is scheduled. I know that it got canceled, and this has been really important to the community, and I want to make sure that this doesn't get slow walked and that we get this meeting scheduled as soon as possible. Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you.
Hello, Austin Gonu. I live at 5180 Crystal Lake Road in Holton, Michigan, and I'm the Operations and Technical Services Engineer for the Board of Light and Power. I thought it prudent to share with you a letter that was delivered to the BLP Board of Directors at their last meeting, signed by 100% of the general employees of the utility, with support for the current BLP Board of Directors and stands in opposition to the proposed charter change. So at the end of my statement, I'd like to leave a copy of that for your records, but that's not really why I'm here. I actually have some questions that I'm hoping maybe you'd find some time to discuss when you talk about the proposed ballot language for the charter change tonight. First question I have is, why should the citizens of this community give up their freedom? Because we all know when a freedom is lost, it's hard, if not impossible, to ever get it back. And that's exactly what this will do. It revokes citizens' right to vote, and it eliminates an entire branch of government. We have two branches set up with checks and balances on one another. Now, I'd like to believe, as I'm sure you all do as well, that all of our nation's elected officials are entirely benevolent, but I think those checks and balances are there for a reason. So that leads me to my next question, which is, who is really asking the citizens to give up this freedom and to consolidate power under City Council? We've been told that the BLP CCC is a true grassroots movement, but as I read in this Tribune article last week, Signs of the Times, according to FOIA'd material, the evidence presented suggests that 3 sitting council members, Cummins, Lowe, and McLaughlin, along with BLP Director Hendrick, have been involved in this since at least last August. In fact, they've been working behind our backs to propose this charter change. I find it very telling that 3 sitting council members and a BLP director who happens to be a mayoral candidate are the brain trust behind this movement. The way I see it, these 4 have been preaching transparency while sneaking behind voters' backs to revoke their rights to vote, to eliminate checks and balances, and to consolidate power under themselves. And in a time when all we hear about are threats to democracy, why should the citizens trust any one branch of government with unchecked power? Thank you.
Thank you, Austin.
Good evening. My name's Kim Duttmers. I live at 13285 Forest Park Drive in Grand Haven Township. I'm here as a local resident and someone who has worked at the GHBLP for over 9 years. Our organization is strong and has well-educated employees. We do a superb job serving the community with lower than average electric bills and response times. We are able to accomplish this because we have qualified employees at every level with the knowledge and experience to serve you. I've read the newspaper, I've listened to people speak about the BLP CCC group, and I know that many lies are being told by the group. I am one of 100% of the BLP general employees who are against dissolving the BLP. I believe in us, and one thing that is clear, that the mayor, Kathleen McNally, and 2 of the mayoral candidates believe in the Grand Haven BLP as well. They, like me, are against those who are trying to take away the citizens' right to vote for the BLP Board of Directors. Our team does an incredible job keeping the lights on, and I am proud to work at the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power. For the 3 city council members who are actively trying to dissolve the BLP, why are you against us?
Thank you, Kim.
Hi, my name's Sean Cook. I live at 15417 Pine Street in Grand Haven Township. I am a 25-plus year employee of the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power. I'm also here to speak on behalf of the union employees that we do not agree with what the BLP CCC has proposed amendment for the city charter. The Board of Light and Power services 14,846 customers. 50% of that is in Grand Haven. The other 50% is made up of Grand Haven Township, Spring Lake Township, Robbins Township, and the city of Ferrysburg. What they're proposing to do is take away their rights and make it an appointed board instead of an elected board like it should be. The union employees agree that this is not right. We have been serving this community for 176 plus years. And I think the voter elected board should continue to be the governing body. The municipalities involved deserve their right to vote as well. Now I'm gonna leave the letter.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Miller, 1540 Penoyer Avenue, and I'm just here to kind of give a little bit of an update on the investigation that I've been doing into the street improvement that's scheduled for this fall on Howard Avenue. When I spoke to Mr. Gatos's assistant in person, she did tell me that there is a section of Howard Avenue that is scheduled to be widened. That is a big red flag to me. I'm going to need to investigate further on that, but I will say I've done a little bit of study about 5 Mile Hill and Highland Park, and I've talked to a couple people in Highland Park. And of course, they've been doing exactly the same kind of repairs in those neighborhoods that they do everywhere else in the city. And apparently when they do those same repairs, for instance, in Highland Park, they have never needed to widen any section of any street in that area, and they have never needed to remove a single tree. And when I look at what's happened on Grand Avenue, what's happened on Fulton Avenue, and what's happened on Howard Avenue, I see what almost amounts to clear cutting of trees. And now I hear they want to widen a section. And I was kind of inspired by something I saw in the mayor's advertisement from last Friday, where she pointed out what she calls grossly one-sided terms in some of the contracts that the city's entered into. And I have to wonder if that's actually happened with some of our contracts on street improvements. And she's also talked about programs that lack necessary process, rationale, and standards. And I have to wonder if sometimes that is missing in street projects as well. So I just wanted to update you on this. As you know, I'm very interested in street utilization, but this is not just a personal issue. I think the way that our streets and our public spaces are utilized is of great interest to practically everybody that lives in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Doug Vance, 100 Washington. I love coming to these meetings. You find out such interesting things that you'd otherwise not know. I worked at McClellan's, 5 and dime, when I was a youngster. And we always pointed out to everybody the bullet holes that were still in the bricks. I'm assuming they're still there, although it's been a few years, so maybe they've worn away. I'd like to talk about parking. I am just amazed at how many times I've had to come here and talk about this and still nothing's been done. I can only come to the conclusion that it's, first of all, it is discriminatory, but maybe it's racially motivated. I'm not sure. My tenants have worked out kind of a system to get around it. And I know, Kevin, you're very interested in raising more revenue. And I can tell you this, that if you take those 2 signs out of the middle of the parking lot behind Copper Post and move them over to the Portobello parking lot across from Kirby, the city will see a drastic increase in ticket revenue because our people have figured it out. But that's not going to keep me from coming because it's still discriminatory that you would take that one parking lot and not allow people that live the closest to that parking lot park there. Mayor, you live right across the street from it. I drive in every morning, and you can see it every morning. That parking lot is vacant. And the reason it's vacant is because everybody's packed into the parking lot over by Grand Condos because they don't have to get up in the morning and go move their car. So they leave them there all day long. At least my tenants get up, go to work, come and go. Only makes sense, people, to make that change. I mean, it's a simple change. You have much more important things to deal with than this, but I'm not going to give up. So please do something. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Jerry McCaleb, 12014 160th West Olive. And I wanted to I'm here about the charter change idea also. And I have to agree, I do not understand how any community, how citizens of any community would vote to take away their right to vote and give that right to vote to a city council, especially a city council that has been averse to the utility that served this community for over 100 years. They don't like what they're doing, as what they've said on council, during council many times. There has been an adversarial relationship. And if this vote goes through, then this group of people is going to appoint the members of the board that's going to oversee the utility. Makes no sense to me. So, I would this is for the people of Grand Haven. Be very careful about what you're listening to, what you're hearing when it comes to this vote. And don't give up your right to vote. When I see the number of the employees, this utility has served this country, the city, for over 100 years. They've done a very good job. They have the best rates. They have the best response. What is there to fix? That's what I would like to know. What's the problem? What are you going to fix? What are you going to do better than what this elected board is doing right now? I don't have a clue. When the employees are very happy with their job, union and non-union, and somebody comes up with, hey, let's get rid of this, just ask yourself, does this make sense to you? And this is a huge question. It's a huge question for this community. People are at each other, criticizing one another, calling each other out, and this is not healthy for this community. The things that have happened in these elections the last few years with the name calling that's been going on, it's very disturbing for me to see this, the things that are said behind people's backs when they're knocking on doors, that are just, people will say anything in order to get elected, and I think that's a crying shame. This is not Grand Haven. This is not the Grand Haven that I first ran for 20 years ago. This is a loving community. We were voted the happiest city on the beaches. This has got to come back. This fighting has to stop. Let's kick out this group and put this group in. This is not the Grand Haven that I know. This is a whole different mindset that's going on, and I think it needs to be pulled back in. And the people of this community, the voters of this community, are the ones that have control of this. And I ask you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
My name is Jeffrey Miller, and I live at 1120 South Harbor Drive. I'm here to address some of the rumors circulating about what would happen if the proposed charter amendment were to pass. The city government currently manages a very large, complex Department of Public Safety, the Department of Public Works, and is involved in management of the Water Department and the Sewer Authority. Our electric utility would be managed with a similar structure to other infrastructure departments, with one major exception. It would have a strong advisory commission consisting of 6 members from the city and a new voting representative from our neighboring communities. I also want to address some of the misinformation currently being circulated. A big one is that the charter change is anti-democratic. Actually, when more than 600 individuals signed the petition requesting a choice on the ballot to make a charter change, it is the very definition of democracy. The BLP Charter Change Coalition, which has organized the petition drive, is a local citizen group. Our funding is all from local donations and our receipts and expenditures are all reported to the Ottawa County clerks. Contrast that with the BLP spending $7,600 a month on fees to a Lansing public relations firm, as well as countless other dollars which will be spent on mailers, advertisements, and the like. Guess where those funds will come from? From the ratepayers, who have no say in this effort to squash a citizen initiative. Another rumor circulating is that the Charter Change Organization is a front organization for council members trying to get their hands on the BLP reserve funds. Look at the charter revisions. The charter requires that the existing reserve funds for bond construction, bond redemption, the Harbor Island remediation may not be used for other purposes unless city voters approve it. There is another ridiculous rumor going around that there is a nefarious plot to sell the electric utility to Consumer Energy. This is absurd. Even if the city council wanted to sell the utility, it would take a 60% vote of the city voters to make this happen. This is already in the charter. Nobody wants that. And then there is the rumor that the employees at the BLP will lose their jobs. The proposed charter changes would, and I quote, continue the compensation of current BLP employees as of December 31st, 2023 in the Department of Energy Services until changes as provided by charter ordinances, resolution, and contracts. If employees have a contract or an employment agreement, it obviously will be honored. I ask those here in the room and watching on the internet to take some time. Visit blpccc.org and look especially at the wording of the charter change, and importantly, at the frequently asked questions. All those questions have come from people in our community. Send us yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's got to go up here. My name is Jacob Welch, 625 Franklin Avenue. I spoke before in a very informal fashion a couple of times now, and I feel like it's a trend that whenever I go to one of these meetings, I end up speaking. But like I did because of the Pride Festival, I want to counter some disinformation from previous speakers. There seems to be a lot of coordinated messaging from these past few speakers, and it doesn't take a lot of realizing to and investigating that this is the result of a private public relations firm for around $7,650 a month, paid for by the Board of Light and Power. $7,650 a month. And think about how much that will add up to. All paid by the ratepayer, all paid by us, the citizenry. And which isn't to say that there isn't valid criticism from the previous speakers, but the fear-mongering that this isn't a democratic reform and cannot be further from the truth. This popularly voted on referendum that will go between all of our ballots in November is voted on by the citizenry in a democratic process. And what I view as undemocratic is this money being used by a public institution, our public institution, to defeat public dissidents, and with this coordinated strategy that I just don't approve of. This charter question isn't based on the conspiracy theories that have been spouted by previous speakers. This is to clarify and make our government more efficient. Our services, which the BLP and probably one of their messaging is that it'll somehow change and become worse, cannot be also further from the truth. Our services will remain the same. And to answer previous speakers, this amendment is for our future. It's to make sure that we can be flexible and reliable. And for the generations that will come, my generations, we need this flexibility that this charter amendment will provide. Because last I checked, this is a pretty democratic institution. Every time I'm in this room, I am reminded that our democracy is great. Our city has done an amazing job, in our city council especially. And I trust the city council, and I trust our voters to make sure that they understand the city council that they are voting on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Good evening. John Morgan, 119 Washington Avenue. I understand the Thompson submachine gun used in that robbery is on display in the public safety building and might really shoot a few rounds. What do you think, guys?
I might want to leave it right there.
We'll have to talk to the chief about that. Anyway, John Morgan, 119 Washington, nominee for the Downtown Development Authority Board. Thank you for your nomination, Mayor, and to you, Councilman Fritz, for your early and heartfelt support. I really appreciate that. For the public record, I have 36 years successful business ownership downtown. I have commercial properties with multiple business tenants downtown. I have a personal residence for 10 years downtown. I also received a letter of endorsement from over 20 business owners from the downtown. And earlier this year, I also organized a petition drive to present to council with 45 business signatures from the downtown. It's a solid block of primary stakeholders in the central business district the DDA is meant to represent. Yet during my review as a candidate, my fitness to represent the business community has been called into question. First, concerning my integrity in collecting legitimate business petitions, signatures, I stand firmly behind all 45. Second, it was implied that my inclusion on the board would not be in the interests of a diversity of business voices, specifically the food and alcohol vendors. Yet my petition and letter of support include year-round, seasonal, upstairs, downstairs, retail, service, conservative, liberal, young and old, and yes, bars and restaurants on the list, all of who felt I could speak for them. With that in mind, and with my love for Grand Haven, I believe I am the appropriate choice, and I promise to promote the broad interests of the Central Business District to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Reverend Kramer.
Jared Kramer. I'm the priest at St. John's Episcopal Church, 524 Washington Avenue in Grand Haven. Wow, so much fun stuff happening tonight. I want to say three things in less than 3 minutes. The first thing I want to say is express my gratitude for those council members who have engaged in conversation on their emails with people that are concerned about the current relation between the city and the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power. I don't find that nefarious. I find it helpful that you're engaging in conversation. It's what we need, and I'm finding it really unfortunate that that's being smeared in the public as though there's something nefarious going on. So I'm sorry that that's happened to you. Thank you for your service. Thanks for engaging. Number two, when I was a teenage kid, I had some really hard years, Shocking, I know, that I would have been kind of a dorky kid without a lot of friends. But one of the life-saving people in my life was John Morgan, who was one of my Boy Scout mentors. And so I still know John. I go to his store. I don't have enough money. I'm a poor priest to buy a lot from it. But John is a good person who really changed my life for the better. And so I just commend him to you as someone I deeply respect. Last but not least, 5 years ago, there was a really contentious city council meeting about whether or not we should have the first Hispanic Heritage Fiesta. It was super exciting, very, very debatable. If it's going to be problematic, if there could be problems, and there weren't. It was a great time. It was a fantastic time. I saw Mike Fritz dance in ways I did not think I wanted to see, but I did it. It was good. It was good. This event has grown now. Our application has us at the Waterfront Stadium. We're bringing in Latin Grammy award-winning artist Bobby Pulido for the end of the night concert. That's a huge get for Grand Haven, for our Waterfront Stadium. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the many ways that the Latin American and Hispanic community contribute so much to who we are as people of Grand Haven. I'm glad it's on the consent agenda. I look forward to its support, and I look forward to seeing all of your dance moves at Waterfront Stadium this September. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good evening. Raina Masco, 513 Woodlawn. I'm also here on behalf of Grand Haven Hispanic Heritage Fiesta as a co-chair. I want to thank you all for supporting us throughout the years. Like Father Jared Kramer said, this is our 5th year, and we could not be happier to have grown this fiesta. I know that a lot of times people are shocked that we have a Hispanic Heritage Fiesta in Grand Haven, but the fact is a lot of people don't know the contributions that the Latin community bring to not just Grand Haven, but Ottawa County in general, that are often not highlighted. And so for us to have this here in Grand Haven, bringing communities across the lakeshore together here, speaks volumes of Grand Haven and the really the strides that we have made to make this a welcoming community. And so I want to thank you. I've lived here for 25 years. I've seen the changes that have been made. I have seen the support from the community and also from council members. And so as a 25-year Grand Haven resident, I really want to thank you for continuing to support the Latin American community and allowing us to highlight not just culture, but the the ways that we support and financially are able to contribute to Ottawa County in general. So thank you.
Thank you, Rena.
Yada Ramirez, 580 West 23rd Street, Holland, Michigan. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm also here in support of the Grand Haven Hispanic Heritage Fiesta. I'm a planning member. I want to echo my appreciation that Father Jared and Dana mentioned. I've been an Ottawa County resident all of my life, and a segment of that was spent actually here in our very own Grand Haven area community. And so I have real firsthand knowledge of the way that this fiesta really strengthens our sense of community for all of our members of all different ages and backgrounds. It's an opportunity for our Hispanic Latinx community members to share and celebrate their traditions, culture, and heritage, but also for others to engage in an intentional way across cultures and create lasting connections. So looking forward to another wonderful fiesta for this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to move to new appointments. Is that where we are, Maria? Yep. I would, is there a motion to appoint John Morgan to the MSDDA with a term ending 6/30/2027?
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion? Anybody? Mike, you got anything?
Oh, sure. I don't know if the rest of you guys took a walk downtown and talked to any business owners. I'm down there all the time, so it's not, unfortunately, that I'd get a chance to talk to all of them if I did a chance. I like to talk, and I did talk to them, and they have high regards and good support for the people downtown. They actually, what we're appointing them to, so after talking to quite a few of the owners, they have good regards toward John to being on this board, so they think that would be a good voice for the downtown.
Karen?
Sure, yeah, I have a few things to say. Many of you know, and I'm really want to share this with you, John. I think a lot of people here know my background is in business and consulting. But what you might not know is that for 10 years prior to my retirement, I worked for IBM as their global retail leader. And in that role, it was a $5 billion business that I ran for IBM. In that role, I supported small and large retailers around the world. And when I talk about retail, I'm talking about all segments of retail, the mass merchandise, apparel, grocery, food, and including a lot of the hospitality, food and beverage, down to the small, very small business owners. In addition to doing that, I was invited to be on the board of the National Retail Federation and the Retail Industry Leaders Association, and I stayed in that director role for 10 years. I'm telling you this because I understand the economics of retail, and I do understand even more how difficult it is for the small business owner from a retail. But and I think retail is one of the toughest industries. The effective tax rate is, from a corporate tax perspective, is higher in retail than almost any other industry when you start to take in consideration some of the subsidies that go out there. So it is a tough industry. Each of those segments, though, within retail are different, and they're unique. And I will tell you that restaurant and hospitality is different. Even as a small business owner, the costs are different, significantly different. And in this small town, in retail, and a lot of people don't know this, but in retail, most retailers are in the red during the entire year until you get to what? Black Friday. That's why it was called Black Friday, because that's when retailers typically would turn their profit. That's different in a town like this, because we're a seasonal town. We are a tourist town. Our retailers make the money here in the summertime, and that has to sustain us through the year. That is a really tough value proposition, especially in restaurant and hospitality. Why? Because 60% of restaurants fail in the first 2 years. 80% fail in the first 5 years. I share this because we have a Main Street DDA that's trying to get some diverse input into that. And one of the questions that we asked was, and the mayor actually said this when she came on board, and she's appointed two retailers, two merchants from downtown so far. Three,
No,
okay.
two merchants and I call him a developer.
Yeah, so she has made those appointments, and we have confirmed those appointments without question. Prior to her asking you to submit an application, which you submitted on June 29th of this year, 10 days prior to her recommending, before that happened, there was a gentleman, owner of a business on Washington Street, who was a co-founder at Long Road Distillery. He has a master's in public administration. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in business and international development. He's willing to come out here at 7 a.m., just to, as you on once a month on a Thursday, and do whatever it takes to contribute. He applied in January of this year. For 6 months, he's been waiting to hear from about his application. What I'm troubled with is not your qualifications. I've heard only good things from you, John. I am very troubled by the fact that we want to not include this voice. This voice, there is no voice from the first 3 blocks of Washington on the Main Street DDA that represents that segment of retail. No voice at the table. And so I'm very concerned about the process that that was gone through. And by the way, he submitted his application just because he wanted to do it. The mayor told us last meeting that she asked you to submit your application. So the reason why we are having some questions here is not about your qualifications or your support. As I said, I've heard a lot of good things, but I'm troubled because this is not the first time we've encountered this situation as a council. No, I don't really want you to respond. I'm giving, I know you had some time to talk. I'm giving you an alternative perspective, and I want to say this is not. I would also ask why didn't she ask you for the other 3 appointments for you to be on there? If you were, and
There
what
weren't
about
any
those
vacancies.
those other appointments? She also made a case for how they would represent all of Main Street, and I'm sure they all had support. We confirmed those. In fact, you should know that out of the many, many appointments, how many appointments do you think that you've made to various boards and commissions? We have questioned only one other one. And it's been more about a process, and it's more because that has been brought up to us. I just want to explain the concerns because the way in which you framed it, I think, wasn't entirely accurate in terms of why city council members might have some questions about this appointment. And it isn't about you personally. It is about the process, and it's about respecting some of the people that have had the position, people who have applied long before she came to you and asked you specifically to apply. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ryan?
Yeah, so I would say that I think I share a lot of Ms. Lowe's views.
the the last time that we were here, I think what initially gave me the most concern was that I wasn't aware that Bob Warren, who had served on the DDA for 30 years, had actually applied to be reappointed to the DDA, and the mayor made a choice not to reappoint him. So we tabled things. I've since talked with Mr. Warren. My understanding is that you have as well, Mayor.
I told you that I had.
Right. My understanding is that you talked with him since our last meeting, and perhaps I misunderstood when I talked with Mr. Warren. But he's indicated that he's given it some more thought, and that he is now, in fact, kind of not, for lack of a better word, maybe withdrawing his application and feeling like he still wants to volunteer in some capacities, but maybe not continue on with the board. So I kind of went back and listened to the discussion that occurred at our last meeting. Took a look at the applications that have come in since, I think Marie shared me since with January. And I kind of took a look at the mix. One of the things that I heard from our last meeting, Mayor, was that you indicated that you believe that Mr. Morgan kind of represented a block of merchants, that didn't have representation on the DDA. My view on it, I think aligns, with council members Lowe's in the sense that I think we have other retailers represented on the DDA, even in that second block. We have Ms. Larson, Ms. Nagan are in that particular block. In the first block, we have Ms. Gerard. Chris Weavers is, kind of representing that restaurant hat. And we have a lot of restaurateurs and throughout our entire district, not just in our first 3 blocks of downtown, certainly in Centertown. There's surrounding, Snug Harbor, there's surrounding areas. I mean, our DDA is perhaps probably larger than a lot of folks maybe realize. In looking at Mr. Van Stryen's credentials, I see no reason why he wouldn't have been recommended for appointment once you indicated that you wanted to fill Mr. Warren's seat. He's a 40 under 40 business leader. His business has won, numerous awards. He's been Newsmaker of the Year a number of times in the beverage industry. Michigan 50 to Watch Business. He's the chair of the Grand Rapids Planning Commission. Has been since 2016. He's been a planning commissioner there since 2012. Tremendous amount of education experience. I just, when we see situations where we have a very qualified person who would provide more representation, I think, to our DDA, and then, and filled out a very complete application. I thought was very detailed in their application. Certainly was making a case for why he was a great candidate. And then you compare the application of an individual that was asked to apply. The process concerns me. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Kevin?
I received one email from a downtown merchant, and so I responded to this, to the merchant. She was very, very much in support of Mr. Morgan. So I'd like to just read you what I wrote back to her so that you can understand where I'm coming from. I said, thanks so much for your email. At the last council meeting, I did object to the nomination of Mr. Morgan. In my comments, I noted that he was well respected in the downtown community and thanked him for his business being located for decades on Washington Street. You are correct that the elephant in the room for me was the petition that he circulated concerning the closure of the first block of Washington Street. There was much discussion on the actual number of business owners that signed that petition. Our city manager, along with the mayor and the executive director of the DDA, took the time to talk to a number of the merchants that had signed that petition. It was reported back to us that some of these merchants were in fact confused on the real purpose of the petition in relation to the closing of the first block of Washington. I still believe that Mr. Morgan's conversations, the circulation of the petition, and miscommunications from all parties involved caused much division within the downtown community. Since then, I was willing to give Mr. Morgan the benefit of the doubt and even thought about changing my position. Unfortunately, he continues to divide our downtown community with his recent email and letter that he has circulated in the downtown. Within the letter, he states, and I quote, "Mayor McNally has nominated me to the DDA board as a voice for our downtown businesses, which have been sorely underrepresented." What a slap in the face to Kelly Larson, Lynn Nagin, Laura Gerard, who are retailers downtown, or Todd Anthus, Kristen Hibben, and Nathan Patterson that have businesses in the downtown or represent a downtown business. Or Joyce Workman, who, since she was elected as chair of the DDA, has made every effort to include the views, comments, and concerns of every downtown merchant. I again find his way of doing business is divisive, and as a result, I strongly believe that he will not properly serve all the downtown merchants as a member of the DDA board. I therefore stand by my decision to oppose the nomination of Mr. Morgan. Thanks again for sending your email. I do appreciate your thoughts and took them into consideration in making my decision. Thank you.
Todd Anthus, Rick Boyink, Nina Bryn, Bonnie Brown, Chris Gerard, Laura Gerard, John Grotheis, Tyler Jackson, Kelly Larson, Melissa Miller, John Morgan, Lynn Nagin, Nathan Patterson, Molly Fan, Jennifer Smelker, Kyle Van Strien, and Robert Warren. That's the list of the people I have interviewed for the DDA position. I live on the edge of downtown, and I love it. I shop downtown regularly and know many of the local merchants and restaurant owners who live and work there. When I was installed as mayor, I became a member of the Main Street DDA board and have attended its meetings since. The executive board has 12 members plus the mayor. Of the 12 as I came on board, 2 were attorneys, 2 were bankers, 1 was an accountant, and 1, Bob Warren, was a great guy who was retired, had volunteered for years because he also loved downtown, but had never had a business interest there. Though several of this first 6 had downtown offices, I was surprised that the board wasn't more representative of the merchants and restaurant owners who are, to me, the heart and soul of our downtown, our small business owners. And then I looked at the second 6. 2 were merchants within the district, but from Centertown. 1 was a Centertown restaurateur and shop owner. 1 was a downtown store manager, but not an owner. 1 was a downtown resident, and I honestly couldn't figure out or remember who the 12th was. But when I came aboard, there was no downtown representation on our downtown development authority. And I'd been watching for years while the board recommended things that I wondered whether anyone downtown thought was in their best interests. And I couldn't figure out why until I saw who sat on the board. I concluded it was important to bring more downtown representation to the DDA, and I went out looking for people to serve. And I've worked to find people who are invested in and committed to our downtown. I appointed Lynn Nagin, Laura Gerard, actually 3 retailers. I misspoke, Karen, because I also appointed Kelly Larson and Nathan Patterson, and you approved their nominations. They've done a great job. I asked each of them, I think I didn't ask Kelly, but I asked the other 3 as I interviewed them what they thought of the closed first block of Washington. Lynn said she personally liked it as a gathering place, but didn't think it was fair to some of the merchants. Laura, who lived in its midst, said it was challenging when it started, but they'd modified their business to suit, and now they were happy with it. Nate said he and his wife liked to gather there with their friends, and he supported it. I was interested in their input. I didn't necessarily agree with their views on everything, but I think that's what makes a healthy board. I selected them because they were what I was looking for, people who are invested in and committed to the success of our downtown. I believe John Morgan is just such a person. He's been a respected merchant in our downtown for 30 years. He's also a property owner, a developer. He owns 2 downtown buildings. His past and future are based in our downtown, and he's volunteered to serve. I also interviewed Kyle Van Strien of Long Roads Distillery, and I liked him a lot. He's an impressive guy who's done great things in Grand Rapids, especially on the west side, which is his community. He's got a rich history there of nonprofit work that improved his neighborhood and gave local kids jobs. He sat for years on the Grand Rapids Planning Commission. He's on a long list of Grand Rapids community accolades and awards, and he is a good man and a good businessman. I asked him which merchants he knew in the downtown district, and he named his immediate neighbor. I asked him how much time he spent in Grand Haven in a week, as this is a satellite operation for Long Roads. He said that he was in our downtown all or part of 3 days a week, not necessarily full days, and he was here more in the summer. I asked him why Long Roads decided to come to Grand Haven, and he said because of our unique and vibrant Main Street, that so few towns in Michigan our size have managed to keep something like this going. So I chose a local merchant who's invested in that unique and vibrant downtown for 30 years and helped anchor. I think it's what's best for our city. I know he has expressed a viewpoint at odds with the closed downtown block and is likely to represent those views on the DDA. I think that's healthy because there are many others out there who feel similarly, and maybe we'll find some compromise that will work better for everyone. There's nothing sinister in me looking for other candidates for a board or commission. I do it all the time. I often interview someone for one board and ask them to consider another, either because it's a more pressing need, or I think they will be a better fit. I talk to people all the time about boards and commission service, and have recently gotten some younger applicants you should see soon. This is a process. You can vote to approve or not approve John Morgan, a respected man in this community and in our downtown. I hope you confirm him, but if you don't, as is pretty clear, it's more about conflict on this council than it is about his suitability for service. That's all I got. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
No.
Lowe,
No.
McLaughlin,
No.
McNally.
Yes.
This motion fails.
Okay, I need a motion at this point to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Nope, it's not amended.
So
Didn't we
moved.
amend it? Oh, not the consent agenda. Okay, the consent agenda as it is.
So moved.
In support.
Would you read it for us, please, Maria?
Item A, approve the regular council meeting minutes of July 3, 2023. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $879,346.23. Item C, approve a special event request to hold the Better Bags Cornhole Tournament on Wednesday, August 2, 2023, from 4:45 p.m. until 9 p.m. and waive the sound ordinance. Item D, approve a special event request to hold Chowdown Centertown on 7th Street from Washington to Elliott and in the city parking lot off 7th Street on Saturday, October 14, 2023, from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m., allowing alcohol to be sold and served during event hours and waive the sound ordinance. Item E, approve a special event request to hold the Emmanuel Free Church worship service at Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium on Sunday, August 20, 2023, from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m., waiver of the sound ordinance, and apply up to a $250 discount to the rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven's special event policy. Item F, approve a special event request to hold Hispanic Heritage Fiesta at Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium and Marina Green Space on Saturday, September 16, 2023, from 11:30 a.m. until 10:30 p.m., allowing alcohol to be sold and served during event hours, use of Marina and Chinook Pier parking spaces, waiver of the sound ordinance, and apply up to a $500 discount to the rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven's special event policy. Item G, approve a special event request to hold the Walk and Roll to Cure FSHD on Saturday, September 24, 2023, from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m. Item H, accept the low bid from Plumbers Environmental Services, Inc. of Byron Center, Michigan, and the not-to-exceed amount of $192,548 for the distribution system and service material investigation project, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Item I, approve the low bid and contractor services agreement with Giant Maintenance and Restoration of Mundelein, Illinois, in the amount of $14,572.80 for the city's 2023 fire hydrant painting project, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Item J, approve the purchase of 2 public safety administrative vehicles, one Chevrolet Blazer and one Chevrolet Malibu, in the not-to-exceed price of $57,516 from Berger Chevrolet of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And item K, approve the application of a mini grant to the Michigan Arts and Culture Council in the not-to-exceed $4,000 for a mural to be created at Central Park Place, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the necessary.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Just a comment. It's Mundelein, Illinois, where the seminary is, but it's kind of amazing that that's the low bid from Mundelein, Illinois, for the fire hydrant painting. You'd think that we'd have a contractor closer. No.
I mean, Matt or Derek, if you had questions there.
Matt?
Yeah. So we did have one other bid, local bid. It was double the price.
Really?
Giant's a pretty big company. They come to Michigan and they service Norton Shores and some of the surrounding communities, and they kind of fit everything in. And we've actually used them the past 4 years, I believe.
Okay.
So
Thank you for explaining that.
No problem.
Thanks, Matt. Anything else? Call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, new business. 10A.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve Task Order 4 with HDR in the amount of $68,000 for communication, website design, and engagement support for the Renew Harbor Island project, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there support?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. You want to start the discussion, Kevin?
I can just kick off real
Oh,
quick, Mayor.
hang on. Looks like, Ashley, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification. At this point in time, we're asking for consideration for some additional capacity building with HDR for the assistance in building a new website with landing page, with content creation, data dashboards, press release development, and other communication efforts. We don't necessarily see this as being a long-term solution, but helping us build capacity at a time when we're releasing data to the public heavily, getting closer to the proposal of our remediation alternatives, and as well as beginning our future public engagement this fall. At this point in time, we felt it was a worthy ask to consider helping us build capacity in that engagement effort.
Okay. Kevin?
Actually, I thought we had discussed some of this back 6 months ago about HDR doing some type of engagement for us. But I thought it was in the $25,000 range. And then I see 68 and kind of set me back a little bit, to be very honest with you. Especially $38,000 for a website. I just think I thought that was pretty excessive. And I just like to hear I understand what they're gonna do, but I just thought that was pretty excessive as compared to somebody else putting a website together, I guess.
Sure, and it is a lot of the hosting and integration and communications efforts to build with all the data and the documentation that we have transferred between what we've built and what the BLP provided to us. Derek may better recall the previous HDR quote. I don't recall a 25.
I may be wrong, Derek. I thought it was.
No, Derek Gatis, Public Works Director for the city. Thank you. The last one was actually to help us get us through this year with the community action group, with the council updates, and updates to the BOP. It's pretty expensive to have some, I guess, clear professional communication, and just the city staff's time is pretty thin in responding to this. So with us receiving some grant money in the future, and we have some monies set aside by the council, we thought this would be a great time. You know, in the next 9 months, we're going to have a lot of information rolling out, and being ahead of the game. And we can do it behind if that's the direction of the council, but we thought it'd be appropriate to start ahead and get ahead with this. It is a lot of money. Trust me. When I saw it, I took a second glance, make sure I wasn't reading it wrong. So
You know, I'm just going to offer a different perspective, because when I look at the scope and the scope of the planning of the website, and the detail behind that, that costs money, and I applaud you for staying ahead of it, because this is the time when we really want to engage with the community about, you know, like you said, so much data is going to be coming in, but then we're going to start to talk about, do some parallel planning, as I understand it, and to be ahead of that game and having a website or having the ability to collect information, you know, or interact and engage the public is going to be really critical. So I applaud you for staying ahead of the game.
Right?
Yeah, I have, you know, concerns with the cost on this. You know, yeah, $38,000 to build out a website and $30,000 for 2 new Facebook pages, which it takes a long time to build up Facebook followers and have good engagement from that. And then the proposal seems to indicate we still have to post on our social media platforms. There's a lot of data we still have to provide to them. And I think it's 3 posts, you know, a week. So very much agree, you know, community engagement is important. I think we've been doing that. We formed the community advisory group. And so you guys are meeting with them on a regular basis. We've already funded that. We're funding quarterly updates to us and the Board of Light and Power. We've had town halls, and I think there's plans for another one in the fall. So I think, you know, you're on the radio every couple of weeks. I go on when I can. I know Ashley goes on. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to get the word out there. We certainly have a website up now through our current website. I get that it could be flashier. I get that it could be probably be better organized. That I do agree with. But I think to spend, you know, $38,000 just on that, and then to spend, you know, $30,000 on social media just through March, and then the website supports only through December. They're going to be posting, you know, our content through then. I mean, I think they're already creating, you know, graphics for us as part of the quarterly updates, and Shile, our current social media person that we have a contract with, has been pushing that out on social media. Posting, you know, that information is being posted on our website. So I think we have good efforts now. I mean, at $68,000, we could, you know, plus what we're paying Shile for social media, we could hire somebody on our staff to do this kind of work and get, I think, more benefit out of it. And after, you know, State Senator Victory is here this evening, grateful to him and Representative Van Workum and the state legislature and their support, and $2.5 million to assist with our Harbor Island efforts. I'd rather see us just focus those dollars there. I think we have Tim on board now as our assistant city manager. Before, Ashley seemed to help with some of those kind of putting graphics together and kind of and doing some of that kind of work when Pat was here. Hopefully, we can kind of reevaluate where our team's at now that we've kind of built it up, and kind of revisit it maybe down the road if need be. But for me tonight, that's just too much. So.
Mike?
I have to agree with Karen. I want to say thank you for at least getting ahead of the game a little bit, because there's going to be, as you say, there's going to be a ton of information coming in, and our staff is not ready for all that to come in and put it on there. I really think it's a good start for us moving forward. And being in business myself, and anybody else that's been in business, things cost a lot more today than it did yesterday. It's crazy what it is, but you can complain about the prices if you want, but it's the name of the game right now. So, but I think it's a well-spent money for us to get the information out so that people can see it and actually read it and go forward and get it out to them. By having them do it, they'll have all the access to everything we need. So thanks, Derek, for being here.
Okay, I asked a lot of the same questions of Ashley this morning, and I'm going to support the staff on this one. I think that we picked HDR as a contractor overall. One of the reasons we were particularly impressed by them was because of their ability to communicate to the community what we found and where we're going and help us shape our efforts. So unless anybody's got anything else they want to say,
I would just like to, just add, I mean, I presume, maybe I'm presuming here, but I'm reading into this because I have been the victim or the user of poorly designed websites, or not poorly designed, but inadequate for how you want to use them in terms of storing content, in terms of interacting with various constituents and stakeholders, and the usability of those sites. So I guess I'm reading into this that we're staying ahead of the game, we're anticipating all of this, and we're trying to get out of staff manually doing things and looking at ways that we can do a lot of that through the website, and rather than respond to emails, et cetera. Am I wrong on that? Because that's where I thought you're going, that there's something prompting this, obviously.
A lot of it has to do with content creation.
Yeah.
It's been Ashley and myself, and as many people as we can scrounge up the hours, but they also have to be fully engaged in the entire process. So if they're not there at every, biweekly meeting, if they're not there and reading all the emails, it's hard to keep them. HDR staff is involved in that and has that opportunity. So if we're gonna do it in-house, we'd have to have, all that additional staff members to do that content creation, involved in all that. So it's not just necessarily creation, it's about understanding the whole process.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. On the website, once we get it in place, as Ryan said, it's really only until the end of the year. Well, what happens after that?
Well, as far as maintaining it, this is to help set us up to better communicate with the public. My understanding is that we would be able then to actually post to the website. Then any major website changes would come in maybe another contract, years down the road. We actually just kind of copied the BLP's website actually and hosted that on ours. We haven't done a whole lot of effort to better that site and its usability.
Well, and I think that does, raise a good point for Mr. McLaughlin that, okay, what about the social, media side of things? I mean, $30,000 through March, okay, that's not even a full year. I mean, how many years are we going to commit to this? And I mean, 3 posts a week, I mean, that just seems, and I get that there's some work involved in creating graphics and content for folks to engage with, but this project's going to be going on for many, many years. I'd rather us explore ways to engage with our current social media folks. They're already creating the graphics for a lot of our updates. We're already pushing those things. I don't see when I read through the list of deliverables, I don't see what's totally new that they're providing and putting on social media for us aside from what we're already doing, except for maybe they're going to do it more frequently. But we can do that. I just think that, this is $150 an hour is what it breaks down to. But that's why there's 5 of us, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Call the roll.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Cummins?
No.
McNally?
Yes.
This motion passes.
Okay, new business, item B. Maria, let's get a motion on the floor first. Is there a motion?
So move.
To approve? Read it for us, Maria.
Yeah, we should end that first, sorry.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to release a request for proposals for the purchase and development of city-owned property located at 18 North 5th Street. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, so can I get a motion to that effect?
So move.
Is there support? Second.
I'll second.
Okay. How about discussion? Ashley, you want to just give some background so people will understand what we're talking about?
Sure. This facility is right across the way back behind us, more commonly known as the Annex Building. Used to operate as our former city fire barn. Most recently, we've rented that facility to a tenant, at which point it's currently vacant. Earlier this year, we entertained conversation with the Board of Light and Power about potential sale of this property. Ultimately, it was deemed not a good fit for the board. So being that it's vacant and we don't have any prospects, we thought we'd bring forth a RFP to go out to bid. It's about 14,000 square feet. As I said, it's vacant. The facility maintenance and ongoing improvements and capital expenses we anticipate have become prohibitive to the city. So at this point, we're proposing that we release an RFP and submit for a due date in late August and see what proposals we can bring forward for presentation.
Okay. Has anybody got anything they want to say about it?
Thank you for taking the initiative to move this forward. It's really, an excess building that this city doesn't need, and hopefully we can get some cool development at that site and ultimately be able to put it back on the tax roll. So I commend you for moving this forward.
Okay. Mike, got anything?
Yeah, it's a good example of us running to people that can't maintain buildings. I mean, a good example is not only that, we rented it out and we didn't maintain it. And also, like our Chinook Pier, we hired a firm to actually maintain it and rent it for us, but it ended up, we had to tear it down because of that. So we're not, there's only, tonight, there's one on there tonight that actually
That
does put
actually
money.
works.
Actually works, that puts money into a building that rents from us, so. I just wanted to just echo that, so thank you for putting it up there. I mean, hopefully we can get it to be usable again. Looking at what the Board of Light and Power had on it, saying how many millions they're gonna be putting into it, so there's no way we're gonna stick millions into it. But it's been a nice, it's history to me. My uncles and everything worked out of there, and I remember sliding down the pole when I was a kid there and having the Dalmatian there, so it's kind of like a memory, but sometimes it's to move things on is what we have to do, so I really appreciate you putting it up there.
And to that point, Mike, I would just like to publicly thank the Board of Light and Power for supplying their environmental studies that they funded. That was very helpful in our proceeding to go out to bid for this.
Absolutely. Can I say thank you to them? I really appreciate their hard work, too.
Karen?
Yeah, I would agree with Council Member Fritz. The city is not really great at property management, and that's also not shouldn't really be our core competency. We shouldn't be devoting scarce resources to property management. And clearly, we're not that good at it, right? You mentioned the Chinook Pier and the millions with the, we do not, we have assets that we own, and I think we have to go through a strategic property rationalization of what we own, what we really own strategically because we want to control those sites, because from a Main Street DDA, or it benefits us to do that, and where it doesn't, and where we really aren't, maintaining. I'm supportive of this, but I'd just like to point out that it's $400,000 in repairs, you say in your memo, to, I think, Chairman Westbrook, I think the BLP found in order to get in 1 million, 2 million, it was more than the 400,000. Again, it shows that we have an asset there that we have not maintained, that there are huge costs to not maintaining. Even if you have an active tenant, there can be disastrous outcomes from not maintaining those buildings or updating those buildings appropriately. So I don't have, any objection to this going out. I do, I think you mentioned in this that we are looking to preserve the exterior of this historic building, at least the primary facades, once again?
Correct.
Well,
Preference is given to.
preference, but not requirement.
Well, it is, I should just point out that it is a local historic landmark, which has with it certain protections legally, and it's a city-owned property, so the exterior would have, you would have to undo that somehow, because that is a requirement. Actually, that's, the only thing with teeth is a local historic landmark, which several of our city properties are, and that is one of them. So anyway, I just want to point that out. It's also one of the historic structures that's part of our, that makes up our National Historic District in the downtown Grand Haven, which is on the National Register. So I would just, you know, it's not just, I think it should be more than a gentle suggestion, because we'd have to unravel that if not.
I think you better take a look at that, Ashley, if that's
Yeah.
the case. I thought it wasn't a landmark. Is it designated?
It is part of the, we could lose our historic district, our National Historic District, if certain buildings change over that are, and it is named in that. But it's, more importantly, our Historic District Commission determined that to be a local landmark. And if it's a local landmark, that's where it has its teeth, because it's given from the state statute. And that's why you have to protect the exterior.
Get Ashley to take a look at it. And maybe talk to the HCDC. I can never say it quite out loud, but. Anything else, Karen?
No.
Ryan?
I agree with the comments that have been made. It's a good example of a sale of some city-owned land and a building that's going to cost us a lot of money that we don't have money for. We have a lot of other needs with unfunded pension liabilities, our Harbor Island costs, other infrastructure needs that are definitely more pressing. So hopefully we'll have some success. So thanks for bringing it to us.
I agree. Maria, please call the roll.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay. Item C. Maria, would you read it out loud, please?
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to execute a lease extension with Snug Harbor Company, 311 South Harbor Drive, extending October 1, 2023 through September 30, 2033, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
I'll start, seeing I've already mentioned it once already. This is a good example of a good tenant taking care of a piece of property that doesn't belong to him. Any kind of improvements that he's done on it is all ours, no matter what. If he puts a new HVAC system, which he did, it's ours, it's not his. And any kind of improvements, the windows, everything he's done to the building, he's maintained the building very, very well for us. And he's kept his part of the bargain, and I'm really supportive of this 100%, because it's what you have when you have a good tenant and he signs a contract saying he has to maintain it. So it's been a good situation for the city of Grand Haven.
Kevin?
I'd like to again commend Ashley and Mr. and Mrs. Loftus for putting this deal together. I know we had some questions about it when it was first presented to us. Frankly, everybody's come a long ways. I think that we've really, met in the middle here. Because of the negotiations that went on, we are extending the lease we're locked in for 8 years right now. This will only extend it for another 2 years, but as a result, the city is going to receive about $130,000 in additional revenue. And so I think that obviously is great for the city, and Mr. Loftus and Mrs. Loftus is something that they obviously think is fair. The only thing I'd like to add, if possible, following up on Councilman Fritz's talk about us not being able to maintain properties real well. Ron, is there any reason why we couldn't give them an option to purchase anytime during the lease, based on an appraisal?
Give them an option to purchase anytime during the lease? No. There isn't a legal reason why you couldn't.
I just think it's something that, I don't want to screw up the deal. But I just think it may be something, if council would consider it, to allow them to purchase it, because I still believe that, even though they have taken care of it for 30-something years and they've done a great job at it, I think, at the end of the day, I think Mr. Loftus, if he can eventually move on and maybe, transfer this to someone else, I'd like to give them the option to purchase it. And, you know, fair market appraisal, you know, do it professionally, but I know something to think about. And if council would support that, I'd like to add that as part of the deal. Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I can see why this is a great deal for the city. I'm not sure it's a great deal for you, Mr. and Mrs. Loftus. As I look at this, I mean, we talked earlier about the failure rate of restaurants and what you've created in 35 years ago. You started from nothing before there were things like brownfield, tax credits. You did all this on your own. It's, not your property or your building, and yet you continue to invest, and you do everything from the roof to the, heating, cooling, whatever, whatever it takes, everything that you've invested. And I know this is not your only investment, here, but I guess what concerns me is we have a responsibility when we do planning like this and we decide, we want a restaurant right on the lakefront. We have to understand the economic cost of how to operate, and you, with all your experience, and you've been able to make a success for 34 years, but the failure rate is much, much higher out there. And I think we have to be very careful squeezing out every last bit of money from a local business owner, someone who has lived here and invested in the community and has been part of our own Main Street DDA. I think you were even chair at one time. It sort of troubles me where we've pushed it. I'm supportive of this agreement, but I do hope you and anyone else that has the business is going to make a go of it. That we're not squeezing you too tight. I know the margins on that business are nothing. I don't think the general public knows that, but I want to thank you for what you've done and bringing us and creating this jewel on the river for Grand Haven, because it's certainly been an iconic restaurant for Grand Haven all these years. So thank you for that. Certainly it's a good deal. I have no, for the city.
Ryan?
I concur with a lot of the comments that have been made. I appreciate you, Ashley, Ron, you were back and forth too, and Mr. Loftus for your ongoing discussion over several months to arrive at this agreement, and I'll be supporting.
Guess I'm the odd man out as usual. Okay. I don't support the proposed lease for several reasons. Kevin, I heard you say that it's an additional $120,000 of revenue to the city, but it's instead of $120,000 of investment that the Loftuses are obligated to make at this point. So it basically brings funding in as rent while not committing to improvements of the building. And I think the reason this has succeeded over the years, Snug has succeeded, besides the gifts of Steve and Carol Loftus, is because of the structured lease that required reinvestment in the building regularly. None of our other leases have been structured that way, and all of their material conditions shows that. We're presently only 2 years into a 10-year lease, and as far as I know, the city is satisfied with its terms. We're only discussing a new extended lease because the length of the leasehold affects the value of the Snug Harbor business. And though Steve and Carol Loftus have been model tenants and generous leaders in our business community for decades, this leasehold on Snug Harbor has been a mutually beneficial relationship. We're only discussing shifting the lease to a new corporate name because it makes the leasehold transferable without our permission. A new, longer, transferable lease benefits the leaseholder in this case, creating new value in their business as they begin the transition to retirement and look to sell. it is not nearly as clear to me that the city will benefit from the proposed arrangement, and our role is to represent the city's interests. I believe the city's interests are best served by keeping our options open regarding future use of the Snug property beyond the 8 years we've contractually committed to the Loftuses. I think we should both accept and honor the terms of the existing lease, and honestly, I'd be open to strong consideration of any purchaser or possible assignee the Loftuses identify and recommend, but I don't think we should surrender or compromise the city's control of selection of Snug Harbor's successor. And this lease does just that. I don't support changing the existing lease to make it transferable, either by assignment or by sale of the corporate entity that would hold this new lease. Right now, it's in Steve and Carol Loftus's personal names, and it's not assignable. The new lease makes it assignable, and the city has the right to reject an assignment, but not control. And the thing is, when you put it in a corporate name, when you make the lease with a corporation name, the person holding the lease can sell the holding company, and the leasehold is an asset of the holding company and goes without any authorization from city council. And I think that would be a mistake. I think the business that operates on our public riverfront is important to the city, and we should be in a position to consider all options. In addition, I see no need to renegotiate every few years to incrementally circumvent the 10-year lease limit in our charter. It takes staff and city attorney time for something I believe is not necessary and arguably not in the city's interest. So I recommend we vote to turn down the new lease and continue to operate under the terms of the existing lease for the remaining 8 years. I mean, do we want to set up a situation where we lose control over what kind of, it has to be a restaurant that goes in there, but who owns the restaurant, what kind of restaurant? Those are all terms that we will lose control of if we sign this new lease.
Can we ask our city attorney to opine on section 6 that talks about assignment and subleasing and what your reading on that is, Mr. Bolche?
I was just handed that by the city manager. And Mayor, let me revise the discussion we had. Totally, frankly, I had forgotten that we have this language in there that the lessee does have the right to assign to a purchaser the lease agreement, provided that the agreement remains the same and it's with the prior written approval of the city manager and the affirmative consent of the council, which won't be unreasonably withheld. So it's the same terms as any assignment, and that would include the assignment of the business itself to a new owner.
Okay, I don't think I understand what you're saying, Ron, because the current lease is not assignable. Is that true?
The current lease is not assignable. That is correct.
Okay, and the new lease is assignable with city approval.
Right.
Our city manager and council approval, and we cannot unreasonably withhold that approval.
Right.
That's the term, right?
What I had told you, I think, last night was that it was like the 6 Sherman Street where we didn't have any control over the transfer of the business, and the lease just automatically went with the business.
I still think that's true under the language you've drafted. That's what I'm asking you. That's why I sent it to you yesterday and asked.
I understand, and I am looking at section 6, which says that the assignment of the agreement, the lease agreement, is through the transfer of the business is subject to review by the city manager and affirmative consent of the city council.
But Ron, it's not an assignment at that point. That's my point, and that's what I was trying to get you to address. If it's not an assignment, they don't have to assign the lease. Do you understand what I'm saying? If they sell the holding company that owns the business, the lease doesn't require assignment. And that's why I thought the language was unclear, and that's why I sent you a note saying, can you look at this and tell me what our position is? And what you came back with was, yes, you can't, I mean, I sent you the language, Ron.
Mayor, I'm not going to debate this with you. I'm going to tell you that the language in Section 6 says that if this agreement becomes becomes assigned to, becomes a contractual obligation of a purchaser or assignee of the business, then there is a prior review by the city manager and the city council. That is the language. Otherwise, Section 6 wouldn't mean anything without that obligation being there. So I think the purpose of Section 6 is to say that if there is a purchase or an assignment of the business, that, and there is then a purchaser of the business which takes over the lease, as opposed to the current owners of the business who have the lease now, then there is a review by the city manager and the city council.
That's your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Go ahead, Brian.
And it may be helpful, since the mayor's has some concern with this, Maria, and it's our minutes to control, that we make sure the wording of Mr. Bulge's opinion is included in our minutes, so that way it's clear for a record if there's ever a dispute on this issue going forward.
I actually, there's a difference between sale of a holding company, like 6 Sherman, Ron, is what we were talking about. And once you do that, you sell the lease as well, and an assignment. Now, I agree that we've drafted something that is confusing, but I wouldn't say it's clear that we have the right to approve the sale of the property. I think we lose substantial control, and we may lose all control. That's what I think it says, but I don't want to debate it with you either, but that's why I posed the question to you, and that's why I relied upon the answer you gave me several hours ago. Okay, it's okay with me if we vote. I am concerned about that provision, and I don't think it protects us.
Fritz?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Cummins?
Yes.
McNally?
No.
This motion passes. Item D,
Please.
consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve the ballot wording submitted to the City Clerk's office by the Board of Light and Power Charter Change Coalition for the November 7th, 2023 election.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there support?
Second?
Support by Cummins. Maria, maybe you could explain, as city clerk, the significance of this ballot, the ballot language. Explain the background, because I think it's in the package, but I think it would be useful if you explained it for people and anybody who's listening.
Yes, absolutely. So on June 7th, a group known as the Board of Light and Power Charter Change Coalition submitted an initiatory petition to my office to amend the city charter. Part of my obligation when an initiatory petition is submitted to my office is I have to verify that they collected at least 5% of signatures that equates to at least 5% of registered voters in the city of Grand Haven. On June 29th, I completed that verification process, determined that they did in fact have enough signatures, and per the Home Rule City Act, I then submitted the materials that the BLP CCC Coalition had submitted to my office. On July 10th, I had received a response from the Michigan Attorney General's office that the initiatory petition could not move forward until our city councils approved their ballot language, because during the signature collection process, the organization did not attach the ballot language to every single signature sheet. They did attach the charter language, but the charter language and the ballot language are two separate things. Their charter language reads what they are hoping to amend the charter to. The ballot language is the 100 words that would appear on the ballot that people would read when they are voting on the proposed charter change. And with that, I will give it off to Ron to explain the legal minutia of the rest of it.
The state statute provides that in the event there is an initiatory petition with sufficient number of signatures to be placed on the ballot, but the initiatory petition doesn't include the actual ballot proposition, then it's the obligation of the city council to pass a resolution that establishes what that ballot proposition will be. So it is not a discretionary function of you under state law, it's an obligation. The matter has to be placed on the ballot because they collected enough signatures, but there isn't a ballot proposition until you take the action that state law says you must take.
Okay.
So it's truly administrative.
So essentially, voting to support this ballot language is not a vote for or against the underlying amendment. It's really just a vote that the ballot language is clear, and what's the objective? Is that?
It is.
What is it? What's the standard? I think it was
It
quoted
is
in the
clear,
letter.
impartial, and no more than
Impartial.
100 words.
And no more than 100 words. So Maria put together, with your help, Ron,
Actually,
a resolution?
No. Maria did the resolution, and actually, she took the ballot proposition language from the sample language that was provided by the citizen group, but not attached to the petition.
Right, I get that part, but I see that we've also now got somebody recommending we do something different. You want to explain that part?
A member from the Board of
Coalition.
Light and Power, yes, the coalition group, saw our language when it was included in the packet when it was published on Thursday, and proposed their own changes. I guess there was question of whether the group, understandably, considering we are facing some deadlines for the ballot language to be submitted, they are asking that some changes be made to the resolution. As Ron, does it make a difference whether it's the original wording or the wording that?
I guess my question, Ron, is did you get a chance to review the resolution Maria prepared, and do you think it's sufficient?
I did review the resolution that Maria prepared, and I'm fine with the resolution. The resolution just does, the resolution isn't what's going to go on the ballot. And so I'm
Right, I get that.
I'm fine with the resolution.
Okay.
I object to neither the original resolution nor proposed changes, frankly.
Okay. I guess, have you got any input, Mike?
No, just leave it as is.
Yep. Kevin?
If Ron and Maria say it's fine
good?
the way it is, I'd
Okay.
Yep.
rather not fool with it.
Ryan?
Well, first comment I want to make, so that way folks aren't accusing me of having any sort of conflict as I vote on this matter. I'm not a member of the Board of Light and Power Charter Change Coalition. Yes, I've talked to some folks from that group over several months. I know many of them going back several years. I talk with all kinds of folks all the time about various issues that they have concerns with and answer their questions. I am not a member of their group. I didn't put together this language. The first time I saw this language, Mr. Reichart reached out to me. As I understood, he reached out to every one of us council members and sat down with each of one of us before the meeting where they were going to announce this and said, hey, this is what we're going to be bringing to your meeting on Monday to let you know that we're doing this. We're collecting signatures. Here's the language. It's the first time I read it. So this innuendo that's being passed along by community columnists who are posing as journalists in our community, it's unfortunate that that's occurring, but that's the truth. My comments on whether or not I for or against this, we'll leave that to the campaign trail and me as an individual answering, candidate questionnaires, which I'm more than happy to answer the question. But I just want to make sure that I'm not accused of having a conflict in voting on this this evening. If our city attorney is comfortable with the language, I support our city attorney's opinion.
Karen?
All right, I'm just, I guess I concur with some of your comments. I guess my question would be, what's the most conservative position we should take, Ron? For instance, I don't want to be accused, city council, of manipulating the language on the ballot. And so this is a citizen-initiated petition. And so I guess I'm still unsure. We came up with the original language and we took it from
To clarify, the citizen-led group did create their own 100-word ballot language, but because it was not attached to each signature page, they did not meet those qualifications for the Michigan Home Rule City Act, which is why this is before you tonight. And again, to clarify, what you're voting on has no bearing on their proposed charter changes. You can't touch that. All you're doing tonight is voting on the 100-word ballot language, and that was provided to us on June 7th by the Charter
Okay,
Coalition Group.
So we have not edited that? That's
No.
the original language? And then you
Correct.
received these changes? Okay, that answers my question. Then I have no problem with the original. I just wanted to make sure we weren't
All the changes
editing.
pertain to the resolution anyway.
Correct.
Let's clarify one more thing. Not only, we're not changing the proposed charter language, we're also not changing their proposed ballot language.
Thank you, that's what I was trying to
We're
understand.
we're doing neither of those.
Okay.
This is just
The
a
only
formality.
recommendations are as to the resolution that Maria drafted.
Good.
And I'm fine with Maria's resolution. I don't really find their revisions to the resolution objectionable, but that resolution is going to be adopted tonight, and then it dies a death, frankly, because it's not relevant anymore. It's going to be the proposition and
It
the
just
amendment.
puts forward the sample
Right.
ballot language.
Gotcha.
And I actually thought Maria did a really nice job putting it together, so thank you,
And
Maria.
just to clarify, so if you choose to approve this tonight, which you have to approve something, I want to make that very clear. Legally, city council has to approve some sort of ballot language. But then the process going forward is then I submit the resolution that's been adopted along with the ballot language again to the state. They complete their review and they then will make a determination whether or not the initiatory petition is eligible for the November 7th ballot.
Gotcha.
And
Thank you.
In the discussion, we purposely chose to simply use the ballot proposition that was drafted by the citizen group but not attached to the proposition, rather than make any revisions to it, which we might have been inclined to make, but we thought we were on the horns of a dilemma that either we would be potentially enhancing its chances of success or decreasing its chances of success, so we left it alone
Very
and
good.
did not touch either way the ballot proposition language.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Everybody good?
Good.
Maria, please call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Report by city council. Karen, how about you start tonight?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report, but I did want to address something, since we were just talking about the BLP-CCC citizen petition. And I appreciate all the comments from all of the BLP staff and people who've come forward. And it's good for us to understand where you're coming from on this. You need to understand that we have no control over the petition. The initiatory petition from a citizen perspective is out. It's out. It's going on the ballot. No person elected to council can stop that. No one currently on council can stop that. That's really just, that's how it is. But I appreciate you coming here and talking to us. We do, I guess I'm struggling here. Yes, we have responded to all of our constituents. We try to. I know I do, and I'm sure my fellow council members do. But I will repeat what I told the BLP-CCC. I told them there was no support on city council. We could have made a change. We could have made a change to the charter or proposed a change ourselves. We did not. We did not, and I told that to the BLP-CCC or the citizens that were organizing this. And they took, that from there. And if meeting with constituents and telling them that's where we're at, we are unwilling to do that at council. If you're trying to misconstrue that as an attack on the BLP, it wasn't at all. It was taking a step back. And I too did not receive until Field Reichard came to me with, whenever you came right before a council meeting to each of us and hand-delivered a copy, I did not see this, this language. So I just wanted to share that. But this is not, when we start to talk about candidates that are running, our fellow, people here on whether or not that you could vote someone in, I think you just don't understand the nature of the citizen-initiated petition. Anyone telling you that if you vote for them, they can stop it, that's ridiculous. That's not how our government and our democracy works. It goes to the people now. The people will decide whatever that decision is, and we all have to accept what that decision is. So I just wanted to be clear. I know there's a lot of strong feelings out there. I'm willing to let democracy work and let the voters decide. And that's, I think, the position of everybody here on council. Thank you.
Ryan?
Yeah, I just want to thank Ryan at the treatment plant for their work in putting together another East End party. So that was grateful to them for that work. That's all I have.
Okay. Kevin?
I went to the East End party like Ryan and Councilman Fritz did it. Obviously, another great time, and thanks, Ryan, for that. The same night I went to Java Jam that Aaron Lyon put on, and it was an incredible event. She did a wonderful job. It was a lot of great music and a lot of great kids running around, and we really enjoyed it, and I hope that continues because it's great for this community. That's all I got.
Mike?
I'll say kudos to Ryan also. I mean, it was such a great time. And then also opening up the sewer plant for everybody to take a tour and see what actually goes on in there. It's kind of a eye awakening, shall I say, or nose awakening, yes, whatever. But it was nice to have them open for the public to go actually see what goes on in there. And good explanation. Some of the kids out there are just amazed at it. So I want to say thank you to Dave Palmer. His band played there, and he's just free Friday nights also. I was down there for that. They had a concert on Friday night down at the waterfront, and I tell you, it was just packed. It was unbelievable how many people were down there. Then right after that was Beauty and the Beast. So it was like lots of kids, lots of music, and local music too, which was really nice. And I want to say thank you to our Public Works guys, they've been out there working really hard, patching up those bad spots or roads that are down that are really beat up pretty bad. I want to say thank you for them getting out there and getting things done. You know, getting the roads back into somewhat shape of what we have with the money that we have to use on it. So, and other than that, one more thing is, hey, those Tigers aren't looking too bad.
I had a couple things. One is, I think most of us also attended the grand opening and the ribbon cutting at Peerless Flats, and got a tour of one of the apartments, which was really nice. They got a nice clubhouse, they got a nice gym. They're very excited about the project, and I think that they're pretty much fully occupied, except for the apartment they kept open so we could tour, but I believe it's full now. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about last week. We had a very nice young woman who came in and was upset about the Coast Guard Festival's lack of support for access for the disabled community to get into the carnival rides. And I got a backstory on that I thought was worth sharing with the community. The school district, the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District, actually, independent of the Coast Guard Festival, for years has had an arrangement with the carnival owners that they have brought in the most disabled, mobility-wise, the most disabled kids from the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District in a limited program that the school worked out. They came in on buses. Each one had a letter with which they could, the carnival was prepared for a certain prepared number of riders and only opened small rides that were simpler to get the more mobility challenged school kids on. A local business owner, not understanding apparently the relationships between the school district and the carnival, put out on Facebook that those with disabilities could ride free, and got wristbands to ride the rides free. And a large community of people that weren't expected at the small private event showed up demanding rides because they'd read it on Facebook and were not satisfied with the smaller rides, wanted the bigger rides opened up. So Coast Guard Festival got a little bit of a black eye over it. That day, they came down, conferred with the carnival owners, and they decided, to the extent they could, to accommodate the people who'd showed up. But they came from Ottawa County, Allegan County, Muskegon County, and all through, and even some from Kent County. So I just wanted to say that when we're going to make decisions about whether we vote or we don't vote on something, I think it's good to get the complete story and get the facts rather than rely on part of the story. Ashley, you're up.
Can I follow up just for a second?
Sure.
I met with Sharon Beam today too, and got the full story. And I still believe that this community should support something in the future. If it's not the Coast Guard, I totally understand, and if it's not the school district, I think this community, I mean, I know how much feedback I got, and talking to Sharon and her group, they got more than we did. And so I would really like to see us as a community come together and see what we can put together.
And I think that's good, Kevin. I think that that's a good result to come out of it. But I was a little concerned that we were taking a shot at the Coast Guard Festival, especially this year, without the necessary background. So I'm just sharing the history. Okay, thank you. Ashley, you're up.
I just want to add, though, since we were talking about that, I agree with you, Councilmember McLaughlin. This is a very generous community, a very philanthropic. If you identify a need, whether it's for volunteers to help support something like this, or financially to support it, to make it lucrative enough for the Skirbeck family or whoever to do it, I believe this community would support that in a heartbeat. At least that's been my experience in this community. So I think we have to explore, yes, not just the whys, but how do we get back to that,
Okay. Ashley, you're up.
Just wanted to echo the kudos to the sewer authority. Ryan Breedveld and his crew do an awesome job with the East End Party in the park. And also Dave Palmer for bringing the music, but also our very own Eric Kalin, who, as always, shows up and broadcasts live from the event. So just wanted to express appreciation to those few.
Okay, thank you.
As Eric would say, how many radio stations would broadcast from a sewer plant?
Exciting.
Eric Kalin.
Okay, we're all going to go into closed session, but before we do, I'm going to take don't worry. You got it on the agenda in the right order, and I'll do it the way you told me. I'm going to take a last second call to the audience. So at this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to may call in at 616-935-3203. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We will take all callers. John.
John Morgan, 119 Washington, back again, maybe not surprisingly. Last words. When I came to the meeting tonight, my understanding was that the decision was going to be made prior to being able to make any comments, public comments. And so I had 2 speeches written, one for when I was accepted and one for when I wasn't accepted. And I just want to extract something from that, one of those, just for the sake of clarity, because I really do appreciate the thought that goes into some of these decisions. I know it can be difficult. There's a lot of challenging, conflicting things that are going on. I respect, some of the other applicants for this position. And I really respect the DDA board and the hard work that goes into their, volunteering. Specifically in my remarks that I didn't read to you, but I have here, I said, the members have all been well-intended people who exemplify volunteerism and have provided significant talent and energy to their town. I'm especially glad to see merchant representation increased with the recent additions of standout talent like Kelly Larson, Lynn Nagan, and Laura Girardi. I think our new chairperson, Joyce Workman, is a workhorse with a heart of a lion and the ideals to match. And it would have been a pleasure to serve with them in that capacity. My concern about the downtown businesses being sorely underrepresented is based upon the fact that there really wasn't much in the retail community, or even a lot of the business community being spoken for on their behalf. And we were seeing, this was a galvanized me to get involved with this in the first place and to accept the mayor's nomination kind of at the last minute, despite my precious, precious time that I have for other things that are demanded of me, was I saw a need to do more. And I didn't mean to offend any one of the people on that board with an insult to their integrity or devotion to our town. I'm just sorry that was interpreted that way by anyone on the council or by anyone in the board group, because they're all really talented, smart people, and they, more than that, the thought of getting up at 7 o'clock, being at a 7 o'clock meeting, that to me is like a major sacrifice, and the time that it takes behind the scenes for all that goes into that, even on the little stupid subcommittee that I'm working on, it is astounding. So thank them, and perhaps we'll talk again someday.
Thank you very much, John.
Hi there, my name is Tammy Amos. I live at 1475 West Summit, Muskegon, Michigan. I'm not a resident here, but I am an employee of the Board of Light and Power. To address previous comments, I agree that citizens have the right to modify the structure of city government. The real question is, why should citizens vote to relinquish their freedom? Why would voters wish to consolidate power under one body? How can the BLP-CCC guarantee the future of utility funds when the actual language only protects the reserve funds as they exist today? Please note that the operating funds are not protected. How can the BLPCC guarantee employment when they will not be in control after ratification? How can they guarantee the outcome of controls that are set to expire? How can the BLPCC guarantee employment for non-contract employees when one of their stated goals is eliminating cost in administrative staff? This likely would include my position. The fact that council members have been colluding behind closed doors to dissolve the BLP may not be illegal, but it is certainly not ethical. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to come to Grand Haven in the middle of July. It's a beautiful community to make the commute to. State Senator Roger Victory, 5790 22nd Avenue, Hudsonville, Michigan. And just pleased to come and report that, we, in the budget process, we were able to get some funding for Harbor Island. One of those issues that when we're looking for those budgetary priorities from my office, so we had a number of different requests that we put in, but it met the need. As I was looking at these surplus dollars, how to spend these surplus dollars, and making something that we can invest in that have a generational change in the future. And I look at this as a first step in the Harbor Island and utilizing these state dollars, and hopefully that sets a precedent that possibly federal dollars could follow or other aspects. So I'm glad that I'm hoping the governor will sign this budget and keep all these items in it. And this item here, it should resonate because it is a game changer and it's the first step going forward. So just want to come and also want to do a shout out for Representative Greg Van Workum, because when we work collaboratively between the House and the Senate and putting our priorities in a singular focus, we were able to move some of these items forward, such as Harbor Island. So it's just sometimes fun to come to the communities and say, hey, we did move the needle forward. And I always appreciate the help that you did offer, because as we were making this proposal, anytime we had questions, we got those quick response and or was defined to this issue. And because these dollars were being fought over by many other different communities throughout the great state of Michigan, but yet this one resonated that to the top that we can make some movement forward. So just was glad to come and report that. And also just want to highlight, we had a great chair to Council of State Government. We brought 600 legislators in from over the Midwest. And that's why I'm wearing this hat tonight, because we had an opportunity to test out some Ford vehicles, a Ford Lightning on the test track. So I'm just going to wear my Ford Lightning F-150. I haven't decided I'm getting one for the farm yet, but it was a unique opportunity and to showcase the great state of Michigan, the wow factor. Because when we brought these legislators on 100 Canadian members of parliament, they came to Detroit community and left with a new impression of the great state of Michigan and our city of Detroit. And many of them are going to come back, and they also want to visit the west side. They always they heard about the beautiful beaches, so hopefully this is a step forward to introducing these people from all over the Midwest, what great amenities we have here in the state of Michigan. It was enjoyable listening to your meeting tonight, so awesome. Thank you very much.
Senator, on behalf of the city, I'd just like to express our heartfelt thanks for your support on this matter and on prior matters. And I can't even tell you how your effectiveness as a legislator warmed our hearts. So thank you for your assistance, your support, and for joining our meeting.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Mayor.
Can we clap for?
Just a follow-up comment from a community columnist. And Jerry McCaleb, still at 12014 160th West Olive. But I listening to the discussion about the person that you rejected for a board seat, who's been in business in the city of Grand Haven longer than most of you have lived in this town. But he doesn't qualify for you because you got somebody else that you want better. And I just want to point out that once the city council takes control of the Board of Light and Power, this is going to be the way the decisions are made, is who's going to be on that board and who's going to be representing the citizens of the city of Grand Haven and the ratepayers of the Board of Light and Power. Because this seems to be the way things are going to be, the decisions are going to be made. And Ryan, you know, I shouldn't be addressing you. I know I should be addressing the mayor, but if this is going to be, if this is a grassroots effort, totally grassroots, totally citizen-sponsored, then I don't know why they have to be consulting with city council members. It's a real curiosity to me. So, and the other, one more thing is, you know, I think I was here a long time ago when the Steve Loftus thing was you know, on the agenda, and it was taken off, and I think that was, I don't know how many months. So I don't know how long it, you know, was it 6 months ago or 7 months ago? Somebody said they were here last. That it took that long to come to an agreement on this. Again, this is for the citizens of Grand Haven that are going to be voting on this. This is the way, if this is the way you want your BLP run, then this is the way you have to vote on this charter amendment. If you want the BLP to remain in control, as the charter is designated right now to have its own elected board, then vote no on this CCC amendment, because this is the way the things are going to be run if it's in control of city council rather than by its own elected board. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Mike, come on up.
Good evening. Mike Westbrook, 423 Lafayette Avenue, City of Grand Haven. First, I'd like to recognize Ashley. Senator Victory is here tonight and talked about his awarding the city $2.5 million. Ashley, you are pivotal in that, all the hard work, and I think I'd just like to recognize her and all the hard work she did to get those funds that were desperately needed. Second thing, I'd like to address a couple of comments tonight. One was from Mr. Kramer. You know, he said that this is a, what did he say? That basically this was a grassroots effort, or, you know, I think that the issue I have, I've been traveling internationally all week. You know, I'm terribly jet lagged, just came back, read the Grand Haven Tribune, and there were two former mayors who posted articles this week, not community columnists, as you said, Ryan, two former mayors. Jerry McCaleb was mayor of this town for several years. Not just a community columnist, former mayor. Both of them pointed out issues with city council acting in an unethical manner. And it's really being dismissed tonight. I think it's inappropriate. I was bothered. I've still got to go back and, you know, follow up with these folks and learn more information. But my understanding is that the correspondence that was going back was a quorum on your personal email. A quorum. We just had OMA training at the Board of Light and Power from the Municipal League, and, you know, an email between three council members on their personal email regarding CCC business with the CCC is unethical behavior. I've got to dig into this, but that's my understanding of the situation. So, you know, I just wanted to point out these aren't just community columnists. You know, this isn't just you guys interacting with the public. This is corresponding in a quorum from your personal email. So thank you for that, and good night.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. I need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Field Reichart. I, many years ago, lived in...
Field, would you state your address?
1053 Ohio Avenue. Many years ago, I lived in Spring Lake, and I've been referred to as a long-term Spring Lake resident. I actually was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Mayor McCaleb a number of years ago. I want to comment on the issue that seems to be very much thrown at members of the council tonight. We there were a group of about 8 of us that began to look at the idea of a charter amendment in January, actually in December. We purposely did not include members of the city council in our process because we did not want you guys to get hit. We used an attorney and we spent approximately $3,500 that individuals contributed to pay for that attorney to be sure that the language was right. We made a small technical error, and I apologize, Maria and Ashley, for one of the submissions. But the work was done by members of this community, 100% of them residents of this community. We collected 600+ signatures. Some of them weren't quite right, but we had enough to get on the ballot. We had about 750 total signatures. But I want to say that the question of your integrity is absolutely inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. You all were not involved in this. We purposely left you out of it. I have communicated with you as a courtesy. I've told you what we're doing. But I just want to make it very, very clear to everybody here that there was no collusion with members of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Field.
Jacob Welch, 625 Franklin Avenue. I'd like to begin by thanking the Democratic majority in our State House and State Senate for delivering a state budget that delivers for most people throughout Michigan. And then to address the issue of previous speakers, that this appointment process today would somehow be unbecoming and be what the charter change would implement. And today was my first kind of gathering of knowledge about it, but from my knowledge, the candidate today wasn't declined based off of character issues, but just because of a want of diverse representation in our boards and commissions. And I think that's pretty democratic. And if the charter change would implement this democratic reform, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, do I need a motion to go into closed session?
Yes.
Okay, is there such a motion? At this time, let me just, Maria, read the blurb because I know we're supposed to cite the Open Meetings Act section.
Consideration by City Council to go into closed session to consider a periodic personnel evaluation pursuant to Section 8(1)A of the Open Meetings Act.
Could we just, at the request of the employee?
At the request of the employee. Okay, can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Any discussion? Would you please call the roll, Maria?
Cummins?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McNally?
Yes. Okay. Conference room, Ashley?